Okay, so this week I want to talk about this thing called the Retained EU Law Bill, and I really do not have time to go into it in full detail, and that's kind of why it's important that we know what's going on. So Rishi Sunak is pushing through a piece of legislation which says that at the end of the year we will review or revoke all of the law that we have in the UK that came from the EU. And in fact, it even has a sunset clause that says if people haven't reviewed it by the end of the year, it will just get thrown out, regardless of what it does or how important it is. And when they launched this bill, they thought that it covered 2,400 pieces of legislation, which is a lot to be dealing with in the space of 1 year, especially considering how much else is going on and what else the huge problems around the country they should be addressing. Since then, they've noticed another 1,400 pieces of legislation. So in fact, it's now 4,000 pieces of legislation that are getting chucked out at the end of the year unless somebody has looked at them. They cover employment conditions, they cover the use of artificial chemicals, they cover conservation areas, they cover tax, intellectual property, cybersecurity, consumer rights, equal pay, real estate. Like, they're just absolutely spread through all areas of our society. And there's another part of this legislation which says it will abolish what's called the Supremacy of EU law, which is the principle that laws that have come from the EU we have to follow in the way that the European Court of Justice does. So like existing cases we have to act in line with those. And because that's being thrown out, it means that the way that British courts abide by the way that these laws have been interpreted in the past and trust case history effectively also goes. And so we then have no steer on how laws might be interpreted or what might be admissible evidence or anything like that, which is an absolute mess. And on top of that, the most terrifying part of it is Clause 15. Clause 15 says that ministers and devolved authorities can revoke EU law and replace it, if they want to, with whatever law they consider to be appropriate that will achieve the same or similar aims or objectives. And that just basically means that once upon a time, when we wanted a change of law, it went through Parliament and there was a debate and the representative who you elected had a chance to say something and object to what was happening. If it wasn't appropriate, if it wasn't going to work, if it was going to do more harm than good. But now, this is saying that in 4,000 different sets of circumstances, ministers can just scratch a law and write something else that they think is a good idea, and the person that you voted for has no say in that. So please get in touch with the person that you voted for and tell them not to give their power away and our power away in this ridiculous way, and instead to make sure that all 4,000 pieces of legislation that we're looking at under this law get reviewed properly and carefully, so that we don't end up suddenly not having protections that we're used to, suddenly companies getting away with things that they shouldn't be able to get away with, all these kinds of horrendous situations. Thank you so much for your support. If you were not aware of this already, then I'm really glad to be able to raise it. Please read up more on the issue as well and have a look around at what parts of this law might affect what you do and issues that you care about. And if you are able to support my videos by sponsoring them, then please do, because it is not easy to put these together and get them out there. And please share. Thank you so much. See you next week.